Hi everybody, Creative Katie. Today, the index card today, the prompt is vintage. So we're gonna go for a vintage feel. Now if you go search Pinterest, you're gonna get a whole lot of variety on what people categorize as vintage. To me, it's muted, it's kind of got that Victorian feel to it. So, distressed, along those lines. So we're going to start with a gessoed card here, and I found, and I'm not even sure where I got this at all. I think I got it from, it was Happy Mail from Peg Robinson when I won something on her site, but I could be wrong. So I thought this, of course, looks very vintagey, so I am going to put that onto the background to start us off, and then we will go from there. So I'm just going to grab my Mod Podge. And I don't know how much of this is going to show in the whole scheme of things, so I'm just going to put it down. It's not going to be the focal point, but it is going to, and you know what, I want it to have a little texture that you get from the tissue paper, which is going to add to that. Okay. Distressed kind of vintage feel. So this is kind of going to be just the background, the base, so if you will. Sometimes I don't know about you, but I just get too much in my head and I'm just trying to think and think and think and think. And when that happens, I can't create. It just puts a stop to the creations. And so, I think we need to sometimes just jump in. It may not go perfectly where we want it to go, but we'll deal with it as it goes. We'll respond to, and I think I'm just going to put some of these layers on top. Oh, there was the carriage. I wanted to save that for another thing, but you know what? It's all about using your stash. It's all about, and these little ICADs are perfect for that because I have so many little envelopes filled with things that I tried with any project, and now I'm coming back to it. So I'm just going to layer this on. I'm kind of liking the look of this, even as it is. It just automatically has, because of the color of the paper and just has those feels. So all these little pieces, I'm not going to throw those out because, they can be pieced on too. Whoops. Something at a later date. So I'm going to dry this, and just remember with Mod Podge, because you have layers of that, it does tend to take a little bit longer to dry, so just give it the time. So I did some thinking about my focal point, and I think I might be pushing this back, but I grabbed this wooden block stamp. It's from Stamp Pandas, and I will put a link to it in the description box below, along with any other of the supplies. If you're looking for the exact thing, then you have a place to go. It's called Roots of Love, but I'm thinking that this would, you know, kind of fits the vintage feel, because that is throwback generations, family roots and ties. I think that, in my mind, that's what works and stuff. So that's kind of the route that I'm going to go. So I did some stamping on, this was the coffee filter that you saw me put some gold paint on, so that might go there. I also stamped on a jelly print in kind of a vintage color that has that patina kind of color and gold in there. So I am just going to cut this out. Now I just used a makeup sponge and black acrylic paint, and I stamped onto it. Now I got a much darker one on that one, but I'm okay because the feel of this should be kind of faded, not pristine and fresh and new. So can I explain away about a mistake or what, right? So I'm just cutting fairly close. I'm giving a little bit of edge there to give me a border. And if I want to, I can go over some of the lines with my micron pen, if I so choose. But I love this paper. I could go and see if I could find another paper that matches, but you know, sometimes you just have to decide just to jump in. So if I put that there, in there. Now, I do want to put some more texture there. The two quotes that I found when I Googled vintage, I have vintage means pre-loved, and the font that I managed to pick was quite nice. And then I have another one that being happy never goes out of style. So I think both of those would go with what I've got going here. So I will defer making the decision till a little bit later. But I think what I need to do is kind of push back some of this. I don't want this to be so much in my face right now. So what I'm going to do is, to do that, is just get about lots of water on my brush, and I'm just going to get some gesso. And I'm thinning it out. It's kind of like a whitewash. You could do this with white acrylic paint if you wanted to. So I'm just going to push back some of this a little bit. Maybe a little too much water. You know, you'll know the look you want to get. And then I'm also thinking about where I was going to put it. Now, if you decided to use something that's going to dry a little more translucent, you may want to actually use white gesso underneath and block off that area so you don't see the tissue paper from below. Sometimes I know what I'm doing for a focal point, and then you can kind of organize your page, your organization a little bit with that. So I'm thinking I also got a little texture on here from doing that, but it just kind of pushed it back, but you still get that feel, right? And this might dry a little bit more. I don't know about you guys, but when I create, it's chaos. My whole area seems to be taken over with it. It looks like my room basically threw up. So, wanting that back just a smidge more. Okay, I think that will do for this. So I was toying with the idea of using this stencil and putting some texture paste through, and then having that in there. And then I also have this die cut that I cut with my silhouette. I thought I could put that in there, and then that would be on top. You know, I'm going to go with my initial thought with doing the modeling paste. So if I put that there, I might just put, if I put just like an edge there, liking that. I think I quite successfully have blown up anybody's ideas that, you know, people who make YouTube videos, well, I guess me, maybe some people that make YouTube videos start and finish and have it all quite perfect, and they know exactly what they're doing. That is not me. You know, the odd time, that is what happens with a page. I have a vision, a very clear vision. Sometimes I have an idea, I know the feeling I'm going for, but that is about it. So there we go. Okay. And I'm just going to pull that up. And we'll clean up and be back. Okay, so that's dry. And if you put the heat tool close to it, you can bubble your modeling paste. And you know, sometimes that I do that on purpose. The stencil that I had was a mini Navajo. It was Crafter's Workshop stencil. This is the, I'm just going to zoom out here so you can see this. This is just a scrapbook one, and I keep my smaller stencils in there. It works so wonderfully well. I just stenciled the pattern on there so you can see what it looks like, because sometimes it's surprising. You forget and stuff. So now what I want to do, and which is the reason I really went with the modeling paste, I'm going to use my Lindy Starbursts. So I have Steampunk Sepia, Blazing Sun, which is gold one, and then I have kind of a tealy green, frosty forest green, which I think is going to go well. I love, love, love the Starbursts. The shimmer that comes with it is so worth the money. I mean, for me, I don't have many sprays. I have homemade sprays. But the shimmer on these are so worth it. My homemade, this one, the sepia one, I kind of used up within a very short time. Whoa! Okay, that works too, Karen. Just spill it. Just gonna spill that excess on there. Not exactly happy with the green, so if you don't have sprays, you can thin down acrylic paint and have it drip through there. Yeah, that green isn't what I'm looking for. You know what? This is another one of my favorites, Afternoon Delight Denim. It kind of has the blue, but it has teal in there. It always looks so easy when, you know, someone like Marta's doing this. But basically my thoughts on this is just I'm going to play till, you know, that I kind of like that color in there, that blue. And it catches in the crevices of the modeling paste. Just going to dry this, and I know one thing from watching Marta's wonderful videos. She takes her time when she does this. She doesn't rush it, you know. Marta was one of the very first people I watched. It was long before the videos that I watched of her doing back in the day when I started 2 years ago. She didn't do a whole lot of talking in them, and it was a lot of, I think she was on the design team for Lindy's, and so there were I'm going to use my Prussian blue to edge. Prussian blue is kind of in the blue-green teal family. If you added white to it, you would end up in there. So it's not, but it is a yummy, 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 yummy color. Liquitex does not make it, so I've had to, I think mine's Grumbacher, but I don't think black would look good on here. And you can just, I hope you can see some of that shimmer that's there. In real life, it is amazing. It's very difficult to find the Lindy sprays here in Canada, or have, you know, the variety get so you can get all the colors. So it was something that I bit the bullet on and ordered from the States. But I love them. I need to use them more. It's kind of like not something that I don't like using. I just want to save them for special occasions, right? Which, you know, we need to honor our supplies by actually using them, not keeping them. They don't, you know, I don't know what the shelf life is of them, so just looking a little too white now. I'm just going to, I could use my vintage photo. It seems like a waste to use this here, but I could have used a multitude of things, but this is what I have handy, so there we go. That's a little better. So that goes there, and I think I'm going to use the quote, "Vintage means pre-love." There's a heart in this family tree, this roots of love. So how to cut this apart. Now, just a reminder, I went and Googled the first week's prompts on Pinterest. I did a search on Pinterest for inspirational quotes with whatever word she gave as the prompt, and I found a bunch. Those I am saving into on a board, ICAD quotes, in my Pinterest. So if you go, link to my Pinterest is down below. If you go there, you can find those and, you know, have access to those quotes. Then I just played around with my free fonts that I downloaded mostly from dafont.com. I think that looks. Now, do I want vintage means? I always one, you know, it's like I spend so much time cutting. Okay, so I am going to, I have blue still on here. I'm debating whether I want to keep this white or whether I'm just going to spray it with the sepia here, because it doesn't look too vintagey. But you know what? I actually don't mind it. I think I'm going to leave it as is. I'm kind of scruffing up the edges just with the blue here, the Prussian blue, so it's not exactly pristine, and I think that is enough. If you're thinking that you'd like to do the challenge, but 61 days is just too much for you to commit to, commit to 10 days. Commit to, getting 10 projects done. There's nothing saying it has to be exactly as it comes down, from the creators. I mean, I have nothing but respect for Daisy Yellow, providing these creative incentives to, all of us creators, and, taking the time and setting up prompts. But at the same time, I want to include everybody, so, and people think, oh, I can't do 61 days. Well, can you do 30? Can you do 20? Can you do 10? Join and do what you can. Do only the prompts that mean something to you, that spark some creativity. That's just my way of thinking. I'm hoping I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but oops. And I love this quote. It ties into the theme vintage, but it also ties into family. Somebody might be saying right now, well, you can't see anything in that background, any of that vintage paper tissue paper that you started with. And you know what, for the most part, you're right, you can't. You can see a little bit up close here in person, but it helped me create the mood and the feel, and it allowed me to create this. So it's not for waste. And it did give texture that's there, that mixed media is all about the layers. And if you skip some of those initial layers that you may deem and say, oh, I can't see them now, it may not look exactly the same. Okay. Just gonna trim that parts off. I have my Stabilo all pencil here, and I'm just going to And I think we are done. So we have, you know, a vintage feeling card, and we'll see you for day 4.